So I don't really do reviews anymore, but I do miss putting together reviews from time to time, so I thought why not quickly go through everything that I've played this year and give it a quick rating. So let's not waste any more time. Here is everything that I played in 2022. First game up, Far Cry 6. Good lord, why did I buy this game? I should have known better. It is another Far Cry game. I can't believe they made another Far Cry game. I was hoping it was going to be a little different. Some of the weapons were interesting. Some of the rebel camp stuff could have been cool, but they didn't quite go far enough with it. Still sort of fun, looks kind of nice, but overall still a bit bland and bloated. 3 out of 5. Next up, Forza Horizon 5, and similar to Far Cry, if you've played one of these games before, you kind of know what you're getting into. It plays well, it looks nice, there's plenty of things to do, although we have sort of seen this thing one too many times now. I don't know, I still think it's a great driving game, but cars in games have looked really nice for a very long time, so that wow factor is kind of gone at this point, but it's still a great game to play. 4 out of 5. Here we have probably the biggest surprise for me of the year, which is unpacking. If you had told me that one day I was going to enjoy a game where you unpack boxes and that's it, I would have laughed in your face, but here we are. Unpacking is one of those I'm just trying to zone out type of games. Like it doesn't require too much brain power. That's not to say that there isn't any challenge to it at all, but it's quite relaxing in compared to the majority of the games on this list. 4 out of 5. Horizon Forbidden West. Where do I even start with this one? I don't quite know how to explain this game other than to just say there's obviously a lot of money and talent behind this, but something felt like it was missing. And this is a problem I've had with games from Guerrilla in the past as well. The Killzone series especially. Something about them just always feels off to me. Something about the controls and how heavy it is on animation. I think sometimes they're just not as snappy as I would like them to be and responsive as I would prefer them to be. Also, I think the game does look very nice technically, but from an artistic standpoint, I'm not the biggest fan. 3 out of 5. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Yes, remakes and remasters are included in this list because, hey, it's my list, so what are you going to do about it? These games still hold up really well. This is a really nice package. So just from a value perspective, I feel like I have to give this collection 5 out of 5 because, you know, it's one of my favourite trilogies ever. Yeah, no, I don't know why I said that with a question mark. It is one of my favourite trilogies ever. I have 100% confidence in saying that, and it still holds up well, and this is a really nice version of it. So yeah, go ahead and grab that if you get the chance. Red Dead Revolver. What I was expecting from this game was for it to be a watered down linear version of Red Dead Redemption, and in some ways it is, but in other ways it feels like something completely alien and separate from that universe. But yeah, in general, this game, I had some real trouble with the controls. It wasn't that fun to play, and it was quite rough around the edges. So obviously I'm, talking from a 2022 perspective. Back in the day, I probably would have given it 3 out of 5. As of today, it has aged not so well, so I have to give it 2 out of 5. Crimson Skies Road to Revenge. It's a game that I had been meaning to get to since pretty much 2003. This game is surprisingly still a lot of fun, and this is coming from me who generally can't stand games based in planes and dogfighting and all that stuff. I've never really got along with that genre, and I think the best compliment I can give to Crimson Skies is that I'm really sad that I didn't pick it up back in 03 or 04 or whenever it came out, and it's available through the backwards compatibility on Xbox, so I'd recommend giving it a spin that way. 4 out of 5. Okay, next game. Have you played a Sniper Elite game before? Yes? Okay, then you've played Sniper Elite 5. This one is almost like a great example of the video I made a few weeks back, talking about how I appreciate that B tier level of games, because this is certainly very comfortably in that sort of tier. Is it a bit repetitive? Yes. Is it a bit rough at times? Yes. Are the enemies and the AI patterns and, the inconsistencies of when they spot you and hear you kind of annoying? Also yes. But I'm still not really tired of its shtick. And while I did have fun with it, I would feel wrong giving it anything higher than a 3 out of 5, but it is a strong 3 out of 5 at that. Next up, the last review that I put out on this channel, which is the original Call of Duty from 2003 on PC. I had a surprisingly good time with this game, and that is almost like a bit of a backhanded compliment in a way, because the reason I feel like I had a good time with it is because it felt so familiar, and the reason it feels so familiar is because Call of Duty hasn't changed a lot in the years. So this is a really good game to get straight into and get used to things. If you've played a Call of Duty in any, in the last 5 years, you can get straight into this. So it's one of those things where if you're a fan of it, you're a fan of it. If you're not, then you're not. This isn't a Call of Duty that is any different from the others. But as someone who is a fan of 8 to 12 hour fast-paced, snappy action, right up my street, to be fair. 4 out of 5. Talking of fast-paced, snappy action, we also have the remaster of Vanquish. Now, Vanquish, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most underrated games of the 360 generation. I can't believe they've never made a sequel. It's... good lord. I mean, some games are just... I don't know, do you ever play a game that you feel like it was just made for you? Like, the ridiculousness of this game is something that, I just love what it's going for. But yeah, for my money, this is the game that should have got 2 or 3 sequels instead of Bayonetta. I know Bayonetta is still, a really well-made game, but Vanquish, we should have had a Vanquish trilogy by now, is all I'm saying. 4 out of 5. Matchpoint Tennis Championships, 1 out of 5. Get this, I played this for maybe 2 hours. I gave it a spin because it was on Game Pass. It had been a long time since I'd played a good tennis game, and I feel like when you do find a good sports game, they can be quite addictive. But this thing had budget written all over it, and it just felt horrible to play. Not to mention the fact that the character customization is probably the worst I have ever seen in a game since the PS1 days. But I'm moving on. Sifu. Now, alright, I'm going to admit something. I put this game on easy mode, and if you've got a problem with that, I don't care. But I had a really good time with this on easy mode in a way that, to me, completely finishes and wins the argument of, like, should games like this, like all the Dark Souls and stuff, like people complain about should they have easy mode. I think they should. I don't have as much time to sink into a game like this as I would, when I was in my younger days. And in my younger days, I would have stuck at it, I would have sort of ploughed through, and eventually just kind of, naturally got better at the game because I was just playing it so much. But that's not the case anymore. And what easy mode allowed me to do was to experience the game and actually progress far enough that I was able to see all of the different mechanics that it would introduce later on. I was able to develop a bit of a strategy and develop a bit of a sense of how things work, rather than just getting my arse kicked in the first level and, kind of giving up from there and not really playing it long enough to actually develop any skill at all. But I had a great time with this on easy, and as a result of that, I went back and played it again on normal because I got the opportunity to see things through on easy mode, and it increased my appreciation for the game. Is the game perfect? No, but I'd still highly recommend it to a lot of people. 4 out of 5. Chorus, or Chorus. I think the best way to explain my experience with this game is I was having a really good time, but it almost went on just that bit too long. Visually it looks cool. Control-wise, also, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here in terms of the way that you can sort of drift your sort of spacecraft. There's this weird drift mechanic that works really well in the dogfights in space. And the weapons are great too. The story is kind of but the gameplay was good enough to carry me through until, like, this thing goes on for like 15 hours. And if this was a 6 to 8 hour experience, I would have come away from it feeling a lot better about it. Once you get to that sort of, the last few hours of the game, I was a tad bored and a little frustrated, but it was still fun. And if it was half the length, I would have given it a 4, but as it is, I have to give it a 3. Burnout Revenge for the Xbox 360. This game was on sale back in the early days of summer. It was like £2, something like that, maybe like £2.50. So what did you expect me to do? £2.50 for Burnout Revenge? Are you taking the... Like, I'm playing that game now. I'm playing that game. Burnout is the greatest racing series ever as far as I'm concerned. I'm not here to have any discussion or debate about it. 5 out of 5. Trek to Yomi is a game that I thought I would love. Based on the trailers, I thought its whole black and white, we're sticking to Japanese voice acting, like all of that. I thought that was going to be like really cool, really unique. The two things that brought the experience down for me, and when I say brought it down, I mean really brought it down, was the combat was incredibly basic, and a lot of the enemies were quite frustrating to fight. So even when you were doing well and not taking hits and destroying people, that wasn't very fun or enjoyable. It was quite repetitive. And when you were, and when on the other side, when you were getting destroyed, obviously that's not fun, and it didn't feel quite fair. I thought I was going to love it. Sadly, it didn't work out that way. But overall, the foundations of its gameplay were just not strong enough to impress me. So sadly, this is a 2 out of 5. As Dusk Falls basically came out of nowhere, but playing this game, I sort of forgot how much I enjoyed those original sort of like Walking Dead Telltale. I even enjoyed the Batman Telltale games, to be fair. I don't mind, I don't mind those style of games. They are quite enjoyable, especially when they're short and sweet, and because essentially the one thing you can guarantee from those games, or that style of game, especially when they're made well, is that every time you pick up a controller to play it, something interesting or dramatic, or you know what I mean, something's always going to happen. Now the story is a little strange. Some of the characters I sort of resonated more with than others, and the way that they try and connect these, it's sort of like a story of two families and they try and connect the two. It's a real strange connection, and I enjoyed I think there's 5 or 6 chapters, and I enjoyed the first 4 more than I did the last 2, but not in a way that it would bring the score down for me. But really, I think I like this game just because it felt like something different. But yeah, I'd recommend it. 4 out of 5. Fall Guys. Now, I intended to play Fall Guys a lot earlier than this, but when it was announced that it was coming to Game Pass for free, or not for free, but it was going free to play and was going to be on Game Pass, whatever. I couldn't be asked to pay the £15 to play Fall Guys, is what I'm saying. So I was kind of waiting for it to go free to play. I had a good time with it, and there was a point during the summer months where I was playing this, for a good hour or so a day, and that lasted about, I don't know, maybe a month. But the variety of courses, I think, is where I sort of stumbled here. It's like I played as much Fall Guys as I wanted to play and had a good time with it. So, 3 out of 5. Midnight Fight Express is the next game that I got stuck into, and unfortunately, like Trek to Yomi, it's another game that I thought I was going to absolutely love. It kind of looked like Sifu, but dumbed down a bit. I love great combat systems. I thought this was going to have a bit of almost like an Arkham vibe to the way its combat was going to feel. And this is a really tough one. I can't explain what felt off about this game, but there was something about the combat that just did not connect with me. And I suppose, similar to Trek to Yomi, it was kind of, even when I was winning, it didn't feel as satisfying as it should. And when I was losing, I just kind of wanted to put the controller down. The moments of combat just felt largely either forgettable or frustrating to me. So this one's a miss for me, if I'm being honest. So 2 out of 5. WWE 2K22, a game that I did not pick up until it was on sale for the lowest price possible, because I have not played a wrestling game since 2015. If I haven't made people aware on this channel, I used to be a huge fan of wrestling. And when I say huge, I mean watching every single show, every single pay-per-view, playing every single game, buying every single album. I mainly played this one just to see how this game was going to turn out, because they took an extra... Normally these games would be annual releases, but they took an extra long break on this one. But it didn't quite pay off for me. It's not a bad game, but this one didn't quite work for me. And I had a good time with it, but the reason it let me down, and maybe I was just playing the game wrong, but so the mode that I got stuck into the most was I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's basically the career mode. And it's structured in such a weird way where you're basically just choosing storylines that you want to embark on. Instead of the wrestling games that I played back in the day, where it felt like you were moving from, show to show, week to week, month to month, and the stories were just happening to you. But I still had a fun time with it in moments. I still think it looks nice. I still think it has a lot of cool options. But it missed the mark on a few too many aspects for me to give it more than a 3 out of 5. Immortals Phoenix Rising is a game that I have no idea why I get it. It's another one of those. It came on Game Pass and I just thought, oh yeah, sure, I'll give this a spin. Everything I said about Far Cry, which I gave a 3 out of 5, apply to this game, but dumb it down a bit. I don't want to talk about this one for too much because it's not really worth it. This was a 2 out of 5 for me. Resident Evil HD, the version that got remade for the GameCube and then got ported to the 360 or Xbox One or whatever in HD. I have no idea how I finished this game when I think I was like 8 when it came out, somewhere around that, at 7, 8, 9, that kind of age range. I don't have a clue how I finished this game. As an adult, I was still struggling to think, okay, where do I need to go now? Oh, sorry, no, I need to put that back in the locker because I need this key. Oh, I don't have enough space for this. I've got to double back and go grab that again. Like, this is still a fantastic game, still launched a fantastic series. And, it's still really fun, especially this version, because it basically gets rid of the tank controls and makes that whole thing a lot easier and does look nice, even though it's a GameCube port that's been rezzed up. Still looks really good. But the main thing I kept thinking when playing this game is I have no idea how I finished this game as an 8-year-old. But Resident Evil, it's still great. Not as great as Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4, but it's still pretty damn great. 4 out of 5. Halo Wars Definitive Edition. I won't spend too much time on this game. Basically, as we all know, I'm a huge Halo fan. The only reason I played this is because I did play it when it originally came out, but for some reason, none of the achievements registered for me the first time I played it. So I thought, let me go back and get those achievements because I'm an achievement whore. And yes, this game still, is pretty cool. I mean, you kind of have to be into it. If you're not into the RTS stuff or the Halo stuff, then you're going to get zilch from it. And I'm not an RTS guy. I'm just a Halo guy. But I'm enough of a Halo guy that I can get a good amount of fun out of this game. It still works well. It still looks nice. Give it a spin. 4 out of 5. Metal Hellsinger. It's basically Guitar Hero Doom. And I've not played Guitar Hero in quite some time, but I am a big fan of Doom, especially those recent games. Now, there are some bits to this that are a bit repetitive towards the end because a lot of the bosses at the end of the levels are identical in design, but not in their attack patterns. So there is that element to it, but when you sort of catch that rhythm and you are slaying demons left and right, and the music is blasting, and you get your sort of like combo multiplier up high enough that all of the elements of the track are, sort of working in sync, it's really hard not to have a good time. I don't know what it is about metal music and video games that go together so well, but they just do. 4 out of 5. Deathloop. Big fan of pretty much everything Arcane has done at this point. I was a little concerned about how I would feel about this game because I'm not a fan of roguelikes, and this has a bit of a roguelike element to it. But once I got stuck into it and kind of understood how all of it works together, I couldn't wait to get stuck back into it again. The way that the day and night mechanics work, and the this slow increase of, okay, now I've got better weapons and better abilities and I can go back to there and do this, and oh, now taking on this group of people over here would be super easy because I can just zip right past them because I've gained this. Like, All of that stuff works together so well. Aside from unpacking, it's probably the biggest surprise for me this year. Definitely one of my favourite games of this year, although not my game of the year. So it would feel weird to give it anything less than a 5, so that's what I'm going to do. 5 out of 5. FIFA 23. FIFA keeps on being FIFA. I'm not going to speak too much on it. I buy this game like an idiot every year because I'm such a big fan of football. 3 out of 5. It's another FIFA game. And I'm not going to stop buying them because I'm an idiot. Next game, Proteus. Proteus is possibly the best game I have ever played that doesn't have basically any story or dialogue. I mean, it does have some elements of story to it, but I wasn't paying attention to them at all. I was here to shoot stuff and I shot stuff. It's old school Doom, or at least looks like old school Doom, as if it was made with modern tech. So it kind of has all the benefits of, frame rate and high-res stuff and whatever, but it still has this retro pixelated element to it. Does it go on a little bit too long? Yeah, sure. And some of the enemies can be a tad frustrating to fight, but the checkpoint system works well enough that you're never knocked back too much. But the guns work really well, like really well. And all of the different, I think there's like 12 or 15 weapons in total, and they all have alt fires, and there isn't a single one of them that I thought was boring to use. And all of the aliens in this thing explode in a very satisfying way. So, 4 out of 5. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I thought the campaign was, it's short and sweet. It's a Call of Duty campaign. It was really well done, especially considering that it's a weird reboot with the same characters. So, part of your brain goes, well, I know where this is going. And then it catches you off guard on some occasions. And the multiplayer is great. Warzone, I suppose, is technically its own thing, but it's Warzone 2.0, which is attached to Modern Warfare 2. That's fun as well. I've had a good time with that by myself and with friends. Modern Warfare 2 is the perfect, for me at least, is the perfect game that you play in between other games. And it does what it needed to do. It's not perfect, but it did what it needed to do. 4 out of 5. God of War Ragnarok. It's been a long time since the game has drawn me in as much as this one. I loved the first God of War. I loved God of War 2018. It's arguably in my top 10 of all time. This one is probably in there now too, or would replace it, because I have a weird rule about my top 10 where you can't have more than one game from the same franchise. But I've not seen a game executed so well across the board. This game delivered on everything it was going for, in my opinion. Gameplay, some of the better, the combat is possibly the best, melee-focused combat I have played in any game ever. The performances are spectacular. The world and how everything is structured and designed, from an artistic standpoint, it is ridiculously good. It is the definition of a 5 out of 5, in my opinion. And now, for my game of the year, the best game of 2022, the game that reigns above all across the last 12 months, Marvel Snap. I've been Inept Saiyan, you've been a wonderful audience, and I hope to catch you next time.